This morning, in our series of discussions for the past 1 month, we have been talking about positive parenting. Even as we look at the COVID-19 pandemic, now that we have been at home, we started, talking about parenting under the COVID-19. When you are with your children, what do you do? We went all the way to talk about how your parenting behavior can affect your child, even as talk about the risk of alcohol and drug abuse. That was also covered myths and realities around parenting and substance abuse. We had also a conversation on how to talk about alcohol and drugs at home with the children. Now, this morning we will be winding up our series on positive parenting with the rallying call to create the new normal in our homes. Today we'll be having a discussion on how best we can protect our children from substance use and other mental health disorders on Family Check. A very good morning to you. My name is Ram Maguko. This morning, joining me to discuss this and much more, I'm joined by Susan Maua, the acting manager. She is in charge of public education and advocacy with the NACADA. Karibu sana.
Thank you.
Asante kwa kuja. Thank you for finding time. It's always a pleasure having you. Today we are going to have a male perspective.
Yes.
You can be part of this conversation. Remember, our social media platforms are up and running. The hashtag, as always, is Good Morning Kenya. Tag me at Ramaguko. You can also tag them at NACADA Kenya, at KBC Channel 1. Remember, the hashtag is Good Morning Kenya. We are also live on Facebook and on our website at www.kbc.co.ke. Keep the conversation coming in. So, Susan, according to the numbers, one child in every approximately 20 cases has a mental health problem. Now, what are the signs of these mental disorders, these mental health problems, and how is it that a parent can be able to pick them out without necessarily jumping into conclusion that my child doesn't have a mental health problem?
Okay, thank you. Now, if we just revisit what we had said before, you can only notice the difference if you know your child. If you are observant, then it means that you are going to be able to notice the differences. So one could be the change in behavior. You know, this child could previously have been very active in sports. Suddenly they are not interested anymore. They are children. The child may have been very confident before, but suddenly they are talking about how they are not good enough. So you see that would be one of the issues. It could even be things like eating, you know. You suddenly find there's a high rise in their appetite. Or it is the opposite. They are not interested in eating anymore. So those, you know, those changes in behavior, in academic issues, they have been doing very well in school. Suddenly they do not. They're not interested in school. They lose interest in things, and therefore they tend to withdraw. So if you withdraw, then, and that's why I'm saying that unless you know that this child, he's been like this or she has been like this, and now suddenly I see this is happening.
So these are the red flags that someone should be able to pick out from. But when someone has change in appetite, we'll be touching on this even deeper as you continue this conversation, because a parent may pick them out as normal, that, oh, maybe today they just don't want to have this. Maybe they just don't like this kind of food anymore. But when we use positive parenting skills that we've discussed in the past, is there a possibility to be able to pick out key areas of positive parenting that it focuses on? Key areas of positive parenting.
Yeah, so one of the things that we say that you need to be interested.
Yes.
Yeah, so when you are responsive, one of the things that you need to be responsive. So it means that if you're going to be responsive, it means I must be interested in what you're saying, for example. So it means that as you're talking, I'm actually looking at you. So I'm able to see even your body language
to gauge.
And so on. Yes, to be able to gauge. So it means that I can actually see that maybe you're looking down. Yeah, you're not. I'm talking to you, but do not have that face-to-face connection. So the first thing is, you know, you need to be responsive. And that is when you are actually going to notice that there is something that is happening to the child.
So that's one, being responsive.
Yes, being responsive. Now the other we have talked about is you need to provide structure. Children work very well when you are in an environment that you know what comes next. Yeah, and this happens a lot in school. That is why schools function very well, because you know children need to come in at this time, then they do this, then they do this, then they do this. At home, you also need to provide that structure.
All right.
So when you provide structure, it means you're talking about rules. They don't have to be written down, but it's good to know that there are certain things that are acceptable in this house, and there are certain things that are not acceptable.
All these are what positive parenting focuses on.
Yes.
Being responsive, providing structure, and do you have any other?
Yeah, getting involved.
Getting
you need
involved.
to get involved in whatever is happening in their lives.
All right, being responsive, providing a structure, and getting involved.
Yeah.
And I'd like us to narrow down now in these three that you've mentioned, and let's talk about being responsive. When you talk about being responsive, you mentioned connecting, having that eye-to-eye contact, engaging your child. How can you best engage your child in a way that is understanding, in a way that the child can be able to understand you, and you can be able to understand them, and at the end of the day, you are at par and you listen to each other?
The first thing is to actually listen first. You know, as parents, we have a tendency of talking at the children rather than listening. You know, we know everything. So even
they don't know.
Oh, you don't know anything. So when I look at you, I can already even say what you're thinking, and I will respond to the questions in your head and so on.
When a child comes to you, unasema najua unataka tu kuniambia.
Yes,
I know
yes.
this is what you want to say.
Yes. And if you're looking for more money, no, that is not going to happen. Listen first. Yeah. So when you listen first, you actually give the child the opportunity, because you know children have a lot of challenges. Just like adults, children also have a lot of challenges. You know, the ups and downs of growing up. Those ones are there. So and they could also be having issues with their confidence. They feel, oh, is it something that I would want to do, and so on. So you see, if you're able to listen, and then once you have listened to them, then you can give your perspective.
But a parent can say that a child should not be stressed about anything. Nowadays, children even develop ulcers.
Oh, yeah. Yes, they do. They do, because remember, there's a lot of pressure, particularly academic pressure. Like right now, what is the main concern for parents? When are schools opening? Will the exams still be there? So you see, the focus is on academic. But you see, there is more to life than academics. So you see, if there is so much, it is stressing, because you expect this child to do very well in terms of academics. You also expect the child to, conform to certain things. That puts a lot of pressure. Because how about if I'm not good in maths and you expect that I should pass maths? How do I even engage with this? And that is why you see their peers may actually say, oh, you know what? If you are actually having this kind of stress, I know what can help you. Bangi can actually do this. Yes.
Because someone has given them the attention they need.
Yes.
But now, how can a parent engage their child in order for them not to feel left out?
Like I said, it's just listening, because children don't come in a manual.
When a child, for example, is struggling and they are trying to pass information for you, to you, you've said, listen. But as a parent, there is this complication of not being able to understand what your child wants. So you get agitated easily. And then you tell them, just go and we will talk later. How best should we approach the listening perspective to our children, for them not to say, Mom doesn't understand me?
You're not listening. You're not listening to respond. That is the other challenge that we have as parents. We listen so that we can respond. And if you're listening to respond, then it means that you're actually not paying attention to what I'm saying. Yeah. So the listening is where you just, there is no order. Just let the child talk about their fears, talk about the challenges, talk about the good things, and you see, even as a parent, be able to, you know, just recognize the positive things. Yeah, it's small things like, oh, I know, you usually have challenges waking up. Oh, you really tried today, you know. You woke up without being woken up. You know, you are already appreciating the positives in the person.
But instead of saying you normally sleep, you are very lazy.
Yeah.
You sleep every day. Today you've tried.
Now those are put downs. So when you put me down, I can't tell you anything. After all, you already know, you've already made a decision about it.
When a child says that I don't think mom and dad love me, could that be a sign of a problem somewhere?
Oh yes. Yeah, that could be a problem, because are you actually telling the child that you care for them? And that is why responsive is about warmth. Yeah?
It's about warmth.
Warmth and care. You know, just showing that I understand, you know, the challenges. Yeah, I may not even have the answers. You know, even as a parent, you can say, I may not have the answers, but let me just listen. And then probably we can come up with a solution together. So you're already creating that impression, or giving the child an opportunity that even them, they can think for themselves. Because even when they come up with all these things, they say, oh, so what would you want to do? Then you hear what ideas they had. And then you compare with what probably you think and say, okay, let's think about this.
So it's okay to hear your child and let them know the ideas that they have to give you. You don't have to downplay the idea, saying that they're children, that nothing good can come out of them.
Oh yeah, the moment you say nothing good, you know, that actually lowers their self-esteem, because they'll say, even my mother knows or my father knows that I'm not good enough. Why should they struggle if you already, as a parent, decided they're not good enough? But
They just give up.
Just giving up. But, you know, appreciating the little things. Let's say, for example, they were not even doing well in maths, and probably they got 40%. And now they have added 2 more marks. It's still below 50, or you know
what you wanted as a parent.
Yes, what you would have considered as a failure. But supposing you looked at, oh, you have actually improved by 2 marks. That means you can actually, if you put in more effort, then you can actually do better. You know, you have already boosted the child's esteem by focusing on the positives rather than the negatives.
So it means you have to reach out to them.
Oh yeah.
But the challenge can be when you reach out to them, but they don't reach back. Where you're trying to get to gauge, because you mentioned listen. What if they don't speak? In a scenario where the child is enclosed and isolated, and when you ask them questions, hey, mommy, what is wrong? Baba, what is wrong? They just keep quiet.
Now, when did you begin to have this conversation? You know the other thing that we want to start talking at children when they are probably in teenage. Yeah? And even your tone of voice, all these things, you know, will contribute to whether I can open up to you or not. Yeah? Because if let's say I break a cup and you talk like, you know, that is such a big fault, it makes it sound like the cup is worth 1,000 shillings, yeah, or much more. So you see, if by small things you react like that,
yeah,
how will I tell you if I tried out drugs, for example? You know, then you'll think, oh yes, you'll think, oh, no, my mom will kill me. In fact, I can't say that.
This is why some children say, I know if I tell mom this, nitachapwa, I will be beaten.
Oh yeah.
So they will be isolated.
Yeah, then they will get isolated. So remember, when we say with warmth, it means that you are not being judgmental. Because if you begin to judge, and remember that your body language could already be suggesting that you are just ready to pounce. By the time I finish, then you are going to pounce on me.
Yeah.
So when you are listening, it means you're actually calm. You know, you just bring it on. You know, whatever it is, bring it on.
Let the conversation flow.
Let them just say it. Let them just say whatever is in their minds. It's in their hearts. Yeah, that will make a huge difference.
Let's talk about being involved. You mentioned that as one focus on positive parenting. But now, how do you get yourself involved in your child's business without making them feel uncomfortable?
Now, that's what we call monitoring. And sometimes as parents, we want to do policing. So this is actually, there's actually a difference between monitoring and policing. Because you see, when you are monitoring, it means that you want to find out what is it that is happening in their lives.
So monitoring and policing, what is the difference between between the two?
You know, policing, you know, the way we, you know, police, as we know it even in our own context, is more of a fault finding. You know, like if a traffic policeman stops you, it's about, oh, are the lights working? Is this working? Is this, yeah. So the whole idea is fault finding, and then I can have an opportunity to charge you with it. Now, monitoring is actually even providing responsibility to the child so that they get to know who are your friends. Yeah, because you know that friends, as children grow, their friends become more important in their lives. So who are your friends? Do they also come to your house so that you get to see? You know, you can't have your child always going out to meet friends, but you never know who these friends are. Because you see, you'll be able to judge even by their character what kind of friends they keep.
You won't even be able to know when they change friends.
Yes. So then when they change friends, because that is also another red flag. What kind of friends were they having before? And that's why I was saying you need to know your child. These were their friends, and suddenly they are not with those friends. Looks like they have new friends.
But how do you build trust so that you can be able to, so that your child can be able to tell you who their friends are? And when they change your friend, their friends, they'll be able to tell you that, oh, nowadays this is not my friend, and this is my friend. How do you build that trust and that foundation?
You know, in the early stages, children tend to bring their friends. You know, you can even say, oh, bring your friends along. Yeah? You can even decide to, you know, make them a meal so that they all come
and eat together and play together.
And eat together. Yeah, so you get to know who their friends are. And then you go the next step. Who are their parents? That's also part of monitoring. Who are their parents? Because if your child says, oh, I'm going to so-and-so's house, what is it that attracts your child to that house?
It means we need parent-parent relationship.
Oh, yes. Yeah, if my daughter is a friend to your daughter, you know, it would be good that eventually at some point we also meet.
But here we have a case scenario where some parents tell their children, usicheze na huyu, don't play with that person.
And what do the children do instead?
They do the opposite.
Oh yes, they do the opposite, because what is it that is attracting your child to that person? So you remember, it's not about what you say, but it's what about what you do. Find out what is it that is attracting this child to that other one. Is it that they have a connection in terms of their personalities? Yeah. Is it that probably they find they can support each other much better? Yeah. And then again, what is the basis for you judging? Do not. I don't want to see you with so-and-so.
And the child does not understand the reason why you don't want to see them around that person.
The person does not understand. So you see, instead of saying, I don't want to see you with that person, probably you would want to invite that child and hear, you know, what is it that makes them connect together.
So one method of building trust so that your child can be able to be free with you, to let you know who their friends are, is try to get a way that they can be able to come together and even, you know, buy them food, wakule pamoja, cook for them. That's one method.
They can, yes, and they can even decide if they're going to have a party, they can also have a party in your house, because that way you'll even be monitoring what is happening. If they go to the other house, and that's why it's important to know who are the parents also on the other end, because is it that in that family maybe alcohol is readily available, and that is probably what attracts your child to that place. So you'd want to know in terms of values, are they the same, and so on. If my child is coming to your house, would I be able to, you know, call you and say, oh, you know, so-and-so is coming there. Oh, did they organize some party and so on? You know, you're just verifying. Yeah. We
are talking about monitoring.
Yes.
Let's talk about monitoring social media and the use of any form of media, whether it is social or TV. How can you be able to monitor what they are doing, what they are watching, and whatever thing that they have gotten their minds engaged on, and still maintain that bond. Because at some point, some children, when they watch some things and mom is in the room, there is that uncomfortability.
Yeah.
So they tend to switch off when you are inside the house, but when you leave, they turn it back on.
Mm-hmm. Now that's a big challenge, particularly social media, the use of internet, and so on. Because you see, first of all, remember, as parents, we are the ones who make it available.
Yeah.
Yes, we are the ones who make it available, and because we know that younger children are much more difficult to handle, sometimes we just want to give them the phone so that they can, they can access all kinds of things. So, you need to have a discussion, and if they're younger and you're giving them a phone, they say, you know what kind of games are you going to play? May I just see the sites where you're going? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So you've got to control even the amount of time that you give them. But you see, if you give them more and more of the phone so that they are able to access all kinds of things, then it means that as they grow older, it becomes much more difficult.
But then how do you monitor it?
And
because they want these gadgets and they want these
and I hope you also know that there is addiction, social media addiction, where there are people who, if they are not there, they actually feel withdrawal. Yeah. That's why for many of us, it's not easy to leave your phone behind, because shortly afterwards you'll remember that you don't have your phone. So in terms of monitoring, it doesn't start at the teenage. It is something that starts much earlier.
From a young age.
Yeah.
Even so, I remember when some of us lose our phones, and we get to have 24 hours without using our phones. We feel empty.
Yeah. That's the withdrawal I'm talking about. Yes, yeah. That's the withdrawal. So in terms of monitoring, first of all, why do you want to give a 2-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 6-year-old a phone? Yeah? Because there are other things that they can actually do. Because the earlier, issues that have to do with addiction, the earlier you begin, the earlier the chances that you are going to get hooked to it. Yeah. So there are other activities that they can be involved in.
Like what?
Interests. What other interests can they develop? You see, like
hobbies.
Now, yes, like right now, if children are home, most of the time they have not been cooking. Is it a time that you can actually give them a chance to also begin to be part of preparing the meals? And
you do it with them?
You do it with them. Yeah, so that you give them that opportunity to do something. What about the issues of arts? Would they want to draw? Would they want to do, so that they explore something beyond just getting hooked. So that even when they go to that internet, they are looking for specific things. If, let's say, it was art, then probably they want to learn more about art, and therefore they'll be getting into a site that probably have art and so on.
Now, when you talk about giving them what they want, sometimes they want gadgets, sometimes they want TV and this and that movie. Now let me talk about money. Sometimes they want money, pocket money.
Oh yeah.
How can you balance when to give your child money, when not to give your child money, in a way that you don't end up saying, this child ni kama anapenda pesa sana. It's like they like money. Because you've seen children who who end up asking for money even from guests. People who come in and nipatie. How do you balance that form of giving your child pocket money when at this time I can give them money, but at this time I cannot?
Yeah. So I would want to say at this point that one of the things that we found out as risk factors in the NACADA study that we did for secondary schools, one of the risk factors was parents giving a lot of pocket money.
So wanasema I love them, nawapenda.
Yes, yeah. So it means you're giving more of guilt offerings than actually supporting your child. Because if your child, for example, is in boarding school and you have already shopped for everything, what is this money being used for? Yeah. So you can have a rough estimate in terms of, okay, so when you are in school, what is the money used for? Yeah. So then you can, you have a budget. Because, you know, if you don't help children to learn something about budgeting, they will always think that there is this bottomless pit of money.
Mom and dad will always have money.
They have money, and therefore they will be demanding. Actually, they will demand for it. But you see, if you create an impression that there are limits for everything, that probably what you need vis-a-vis what you want. Yeah? What is it that you need to be able to get to school and so on?
You should paint that picture to them.
Yes. So if you do not paint that picture, then they always have an impression that they can always get anything that they want. And if they cannot, then they're going to get it elsewhere. Now, when you talk about children who will even ask for money from guests, now that tells you that there is a much bigger problem. Yeah, it's a much bigger problem, because why would they? It's a behavior that you need to curtail at that point in time.
Could it be you who has failed in a way? Could it be that the child got that problem elsewhere? How do you narrow down the problem?
I wouldn't want to use the word fail. Yeah, because remember that, like I've mentioned, children do not come with a manual. So that you say, before you start, plug it in. Press, long press, long press, and then it turns on, and then this, So you would want to find out, is it you who has encouraged this? Where are they getting this? And then probably instead of maybe shouting at them, you could tell them, you know, you do not ask for things from other people. Yeah.
Then let's talk about this now. We've talked about being responsive. We've touched on being involved. I would like also to touch a bit on this, providing structure. How can you be able to create clear-cut guidelines and rules in the house that are both comfortable for the child in a way that he understands why these rules exist, and you can be able to understand that I think these rules we are building up are able to help the both of us, and you can be able to have that conversation as you create all these guidelines.
Oh yes, it has to be a collaboration. It's not where I draw the rules and bring them to you. I don't draw the rules and then you are to follow.
You're saying you should sit down with your child and discuss these rules?
During this COVID period, you know, people have found themselves together in a way that they haven't been before. Yeah? Mothers and fathers and children have been existing in the same house. Now they find themselves with more time, more interaction time amongst them. So it means that you must sit down and say, okay, so how are we going to operate during this period? So it's got to be very clear. Okay, so who is, it also involves even some of the routines. What are some of the things that they can do, including chores? You know, if they have been going to school very early in the morning, the whole day they are in school, they come back in the evening, they have homework to do, it means that they really never learn the other aspect of life, which has to do with chores and so on. And
it engages them. It even engages their mind. They can be able to have the aspect of critical thinking.
And therefore, the critical thinking and even decision making. So that then they can weigh the options.
And balance.
They need to create that balance. So as a parent, you are also trying to create a balance, including pocket money and so on. You know, would you also want to give them a little reward so that they also know, when I do this, then I can also get reward, including the gadget. You know, when you do this, then I can give you 20 minutes or half an hour to play with my phone. So the aspect of providing rules and also consequences. What happens if this does not happen? And you see, when the child is part of the decision making and even the plan making, then you'll ask them, okay, so what did we say happens if you don't do this? Then they are going to respond.
But now I wonder, at what age should you start having these discussions with your child?
As early as they're able to talk.
You can reason to them as soon as they're able to talk. You can tell them, these are the rules of the house, and then you discuss them.
What is the time for going to sleep? Yeah?
Ah.
You know, they may not know the time, like a smaller child, a 5-year-old may not have a clear concept.
But you can tell them after umekula, after you eat.
Yes. After you have eaten, then this is what we are going to do. Before you go to sleep, then you're going to brush your teeth. You're going to change into your sleeping clothes and so on. You know, you're already providing some kind of routine so that the child knows you don't sleep in these ones. You sleep in another one. Yeah. So you are already providing that kind of structure. The mistake that we usually make is we do not involve them when they are younger. And then when they get to preteen, when now things become more challenging, it gets harder to talk about things.
But now at that point that your child is now a teenager, well, you can even say maybe as low as maybe 10, 11, 12, and then as they get into their teenage, is it possible to also have these discussions even with the teenager, with a child who is, you can say, maturing up?
Yeah, progressively, because remember what you're going to talk to about a 2-year-old. You know, in a 2-year-old, you can be talking about finishing your food, when you go to sleep, and so on. But you see, as they get into teenage and they are school going, even them, they cannot just stay until 11. So you see, when you're discussing about the same thing like time, how you deal with a younger one and an older one is different. Now, when you get into teenage and even preteen, the challenges or the issues of life are also different.
All right.
So that is why as they grow older, it means that the conversation is going to be relevant or appropriate to the age. But you see, if you don't talk to them before, and then they get into this age where I say, oh, they could be using drugs, or they could be engaged in sex, they could be doing this. Well, how do you begin the conversation? Because you see, as they grow older, the conversations become more difficult.
Now, when it comes to positive parenting, because we've had this series of discussions on positive parenting. And I believe even as you're watching from home, this series of discussions have been able to build you up in terms of the knowledge and the necessary skills that you can acquire for you to be able to know how to deal with yourself and how to deal with your child. But now, for those who may have taken these steps in improving their parenting during this stay-at-home period of COVID-19, how should they be able to, keep the conversation going post-COVID-19?
So remember, when it is getting involved, get involved even in their schoolwork. Yeah, get to, right now you have turned into a small-time kind of teacher in the class, in the home. But when they go back to school, can you continue to be more interested in their work? Even in their academic work, get more interested.
Don't stop now.
You don't stop now. So probably you did not have an opportunity to begin these conversations before. Now that you have started, don't stop. Yeah. So it is little by little, and then you build up on that. You may not even be good in maths, but you see, you're not going to tell your child, oh, I also failed in maths. I say, if you failed in maths, then it means I am okay with.
These why most of our parents normally passed in maths.
Oh yes, they all passed.
They were all number one.
They all became number one, and they all passed, and all that kind of thing. Because you see, if I tell you how I failed in maths, then they say, okay, it could even be something which is genetic. So I don't even need to bother with it. But you see, if you get once we even have an extension now. We're talking of all schools will open in June.
In June.
Maybe, depending on how things change. Yeah, how things are by then. So it means that you've already started this conversation. Continue with it, even beyond that. Get to know about even the kind of challenges that they have, because remember that when people begin to use drugs, they're using drugs because one could be a peer pressure. Two, it could be that there was already a mental health issue that is there, and they are therefore trying to self-medicate. When you use alcohol or drugs, it helps you to deal with the the emotions, the
void that
the void that is there. You know, it helps you to do this. Yeah. So that's why you need to keep the conversation going.
Now, this discussion has been very enlightening. It has been heavy. As we bring this whole thing, because we are now wrapping up all this, this whole series of discussion on positive parenting, why did NACADA, choose this angle, especially during this period of the COVID-19?
All right. So thank you, because like I said, we have done studies. One of the mandate of NACADA is actually to conduct researches so that it can inform the whole country in terms of the various aspects of alcohol and drug abuse. Yeah. So from the primary and the secondary school surveys, it actually turned out that one of the areas, a lot of factors were pointing towards parenting. Parents not being available, parents giving a lot of money, parents using the substances themselves.
Even before the children.
Even before the children, parents keeping alcohol in the house. You know, all these are factors that are contributing to children doing this. Because remember, children do what they see you do, not what you say. So a lot of it has to do with you are modeling. Remember, you're already a model. So if this is what you're modeling, then this is what is going to come out.
So even though you may have these discussions, engage them, agree, but what you do will stick more than what you've been telling them or discussing with them.
So you need to lead by example. So that is why as NACADA we got into this portion of actually addressing, because if you realize that this is the risk factor, in alcohol and drug abuse prevention, we look at two things. There is the risk factor and there is the protective factor. So you want to reduce the risk factors as you increase the protective factors. Remember, families are supposed to be protective factors. But now, the home environment has turned out to be a risk factor for children. So that's why then, as NACADA, it becomes important that if you're doing prevention, then we need to address the risk factors. This is a conversation that will continue. Even though these sessions are coming to an end, these particular ones, we are still going to hold these conversations even in the vernacular stations.
Exactly,
so
because
that
it builds families.
Yes, so you remember the family is the fabric of society.
Exactly.
So the moment there are holes in the family, then it means that children will be falling in those holes that are there.
It means there are holes in the society.
There are holes. In fact, what you see in the society is a reflection of what is happening in families.
But now as we talk about family, we have the COVID-19 pandemic. You mentioned it is making people spend time with, with family. Which reminds me, when in a normal situation, the father or the mother or both leave home, they leave their child in the hands of a nanny. And it is a nanny who takes care of the child. Meaning, for most parts of every day, the person who spends time with the child is on the parents. It is the nanny. How then can you be able to bridge the gap brought by the challenge of a parent not spending much time with the child, instead it is a nanny? So even when the child develops any complication, the parent will only ask the nanny. They won't even ask one another.
Now that brings us also to what we said, quality time. Quality time for every child is only 10 minutes. And I believe that however busy you are, and today, we hardly have as many children. So it means that even if you cannot afford it per day, at least you should be able to. We are talking of 10 minutes is a minimum.
10 minutes per day?
Yes, 10 minutes per day for minimum. Every child, so that you just get to know if they are of school going age, what is it that is happening in school and so on. And we know that today it is the nannies who also help them to do the homework and so on. But you see, at the same time, we don't check this nanny. Do they have all these qualifications and all these things that we are trying to have them to do? So however busy you are, remember that you matter to your child. And what you do, just paying a little attention to your child, goes a long way in knowing that, helping them know that you care. That is why when they say, oh, you know, my parents don't love me, do you spend some time and just listen to them, talk to them? They know, yes, my dad is busy, my mom is busy because they have to pay rent, they have to pay fees and so on, but they still create time to be with me. So even if it is a weekend, that probably you want to create time. And when we say the weekend, it is nowhere, because that is the other thing that parents do. On Sunday, when you are supposedly creating family time, you still take them to your place where you'll be sitting there with your Tusker or whatever it is that you are taking, and then there are bouncing castles at the other end, and then you imagine that now you are having...
That is not bonding.
That is not bonding.
You're just sitting in the same geographical area.
Yeah, in the same geographical area, same script as before. Yeah. So even in the home, you can even decide, yes, people are busy, but can we even twice in a week create time to eat as a family?
How is the response coming in from all these families as NACADA? Because this project has been quite intensive, informative, educative. How is the response from the ground, from these families? Do you see changes?
You know, change is a progressive thing, but yes, we are also offering a parenting seminar, and people have really been signing up for that. So the response has been good because people are also asking questions. They want to find out more. And at this point, I would also want to say that we will be offering that parenting seminar across the counties, because NACADA has a number of offices across the country. We have an office in Mombasa, we have an office in Nairobi, in Kisumu, in Nakuru, in Eldoret, in Nyeri, in Garissa. So you see, in Kakamega, so you see all these regional offices eventually will have, you know, face-to-face interactions with parents who sign up. So you see, that's already something that is happening. And other than that, we also have family-based prevention interventions trainings. So this is not just a one-off thing. It is something that we shall continue with as NACADA, because like I said, we have to address the risk factors. And one of them is just the family. We have other areas like in the workplace. So we also have programs that target the workplace. Then we also have those ones that will target the communities. Yeah. So all these are different settings that we will be reaching out to.
Very soon, we should have a discussion on how parents working in the same work environment don't bring stress that they get at work to the house.
Oh, yeah.
We should have that discussion coming up.
Okay.
Thank you. That is Susan Maua, the acting manager at the public education and advocacy sector in NACADA. Thank you very much, Susan, for giving us your insight. It has been very, very educative.
Thank you.
Now, at NACADA Kenya is the Twitter handle. At KBC Channel 1 is our Twitter handle. And the hashtag is Good Morning Kenya. My handle, at Ramaguko. This has been the discussion on Family Check this morning on positive parenting. Post-COVID-19, what is the way forward?